And before we move to our next panel, which is on vertical construction, the way to go, technology, modernization, real estate industry, let's have a quick look at what's new. And for that, I would like to invite Mr. Amin Nair, CEO, ANA Design Studio, to highlight on dry construction techniques. And let's put our hands together for Mr. Amin Nair.
So this is the stuff of nightmares, because somebody like me is asked to speak after such an eminent panel and people discussing conceptual stuff and intellectual stuff, and I am inherently a nuts and bolts guy. So please bear with me. There's nothing uniquely conceptual or talking about fundamentals here. It's a small project that we did 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, in the very exciting time when COVID knocked at our door. And a few things that we tweaked along the way, and a few things that we specified along the way, that allowed us to finish this on time. So this is one of our project sites in Gujarat. This started construction in 17-18. Phase 2 came in 2019. And that was the time when COVID, as I said, was knocking on our door. And we had to look at things that could be done, in spite of the fact that a lot of people whom we usually depend upon for construction are not available. A lot of tools were not available. I'll quickly pass through a few slides. I'm using 2 small buildings of this complex as a showcase. This is the administration building for this plant, and then the main building that came in for the production facilities. It's a small project, about 150,000 square feet total. But interestingly, it's a manufacturing industry which required the environment to be controlled and therefore air-conditioned. And a lot of the cells that you see on this building are controlled for temperature and humidity at different temperatures. So there are cells that need to be kept at 18 degrees, there are ones that need to be at 22 degrees, there are ones that need to be at 26 degrees. And there was obviously a very high degree of investment that went into this project. It's a project that is used for manufacturing machines that will lay railway tracks, and therefore a project of imminent national importance, couldn't be delayed. What we came up with was hybridization in one of the buildings, where the structure was already designed in RCC, but the rest of it came up with mechanical stuff that was imported from various places or put together in various places, and then the secondary structure, which was steel. The interesting thing about this project is that while obviously the RCC portion got built in situ, the roofing for the structure was supplied by Kingspan from the UK manufacturing facilities, and it came in as a single-step insulated roof, which met the requirements that we had for keeping the temperatures in check and insulating the buildings, as well as a hybridization on the facade of the building itself, which allowed us not only to make it look good the way it does, but it also allowed us to have this turned into a working facade that worked on temperature control, lighting control, fixity of windows, as well as all the services that needed to go inside the building were pre-designed, pre-engineered, pre-mounted, or their clamps were pre-mounted, and then this building was constructed. So in a span from design in November 2019 to its handover in 21 August, a large part of the fabrication, pre-design, pre-construction happened during the lockdown phase, happened internationally in several countries, including Dubai and the United Kingdom. And a lot of it, of course, was Indian work as well. And the building eventually got finished on time, almost on budget, not substantially off budget. But what I loved about this building also is that we pretty much did away with any kind of conventional work, including block work and plastering and whatever else we normally see on sites, to things that were pre-finished in a factory and got installed on site the way we wanted them to. You can see some images of stuff that was happening along the way, how the BIM model worked and what it actually looked like on the site, including the services, including the ducting and piping that came pre-finished. This is on the left, the BIM model, and the right side, a photograph of the finished building. Some of the interior works that went on, including the piping, plumbing, firefighting, air conditioning, and then a small set of images of what we thought it would be and what it became. So this really are a corollary between what we designed and told the client we would do, and what we actually finished on the site in a span of about 9 months. So one of the things that Vishali told me was to also not talk for more than 4 minutes. I believe that's up. But thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you very much indeed. Once again, inviting Mr. Shali to do the honors of presenting a memento, a small gift, a token of gratitude to our very eminent speaker, Mr. Amin Nair. And ladies and gentlemen, with that very interesting quick pick, I now invite the illustrious panel that will talk about vertical construction and how each one is using technology in their respective fields. May I invite our distinguished moderator for this session, Mr. Rajiv Nehru, in-market lead, Asiapac, our ICS. Let's put our hands together for him. With over 25 years as a construction management, Mr. Nehru has honed skills in construction technology, contract management, business strategy, strategic planning, cost management, and program management. And may I now invite our eminent panelist, Mr. Sandeep Roy, Senior Vice President and Head of Design and Engineering, DLF. A warm welcome to you, sir. With over 3 decades of experience, Mr. Roy has been instrumental in establishing and managing architectural design, project management, and real estate development companies, along with numerous landmark townships, buildings, and interior projects. Warm welcome to you, sir. May I now invite our panelist, Mr. Ashish Rakheja, Managing Partner, AEON, Integrated Building Design Consultant. With 30 years of work experience, Mr. Rakheja, a seasoned consulting engineer who has designed over 3,000 projects and specializes in high-performance buildings. He is spearheading the green building movement in India in capacity of the role as Chairman Technical Committee of Indian Green Building Council, IGBC. A warm welcome to you, sir. I invite Mr. Siddharth Day, Head Ops, Building and Public Spaces, Civil SBU, KEC International. He is a specialist in new business initiatives and modern management practices in construction with 30 years of experience in managing civil PC and construction projects right from development to delivery. A warm welcome to you, sir. And I also invite Mr. Virendra Gupta, Executive Director, Project Management, CBRE, India, is responsible for business growth and specializes in project development and preparation of schedules, technical and process audits, formation of cost controlling and project monitoring mechanisms, contractual obligations, claims, settlements, and conflict resolutions. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together to welcome our distinguished panel on the stage for this panel discussion session. And I hand over to Mr. Nehru to kindly take the discussions forward. And may I remind you, sir, you have 45 minutes for this session.
Thank you. I won't sit down. That's not my habit. Welcome all. I think it's been a very technology overload discussions we had since morning, because a very decent audience, decent panel, no discussion, no controversy. But I'll assure this will not happen in this panel. We have a lot of controversy. All the big boys, bad boys are here. We have the bad boy from design. We have the stepchild from MEP. We have the step parent, project management, and the quiet sly child on the dock is the design head, design guy. So we have all the variety and villains and heroes here to create a controversy. And let's do it, because that's the time. Vertical construction is very, very simple. If you can't go horizontally, go vertically up. Because somebody said the air up there is good. But to reach that air, I think it will take a lot of cost. Okay? That's one aspect. The second part is, the air up there is not good. The land is very expensive. Okay? So I remember 15 years back, the cost of the construction, say, was X. The land cost was X by 2. Today, the cost is X. The land cost is 5 times X, 6 times X. And in other places, it could be 20 times X. Okay? So do I have an option to go up? I don't have an option. It's just I have to go out. Do I have the hands, the technology, the skill that they are going to tell you I'm not even capable remotely to discuss that. That's one option. In 2005, I was given a task by the government of Maharashtra, so very interesting, to see if we can go from 21 meter to 36 meter. And every bureaucrat in the hall thought, wow, what an initiative. Somewhere actually depending their career progress on that discussion. Let's go from 21 meter to 36 meters. This was 2003-04. And one man sitting in the corner is laughing. And he said, you can't do it. You can never do it. And we thought maybe he's a designer, maybe he's an architect, maybe he's a builder, or maybe he's a municipal commissioner. You can't do it. Do whatever you can. You can't do it. Impossible. And we asked, who are you? He said, I'm the chief fire officer of Pune city. Chief fire officer. How a fire officer is telling you can't do it? I mean, what business he has to do it? He said, the problem is, my fire brigade cannot go above 7 stories for dousing a fire. Period. Got it? So the firefighting capacity of a city at that time was defining to what height a building will go. This was a joke. Not a joke, this is a reality. Okay? So then we thought, okay, what business are we losing? So we realized in the city of Pune alone, we are losing a business if we want to go from 21 story to 21 meter to 36 meter. The quantum business was 8,000 crores. And what is the cost of a firefighter which can go to 36 meters? It was 1 crore. What logical? This is only happened in India. Great country. Okay? Because bureaucracy was there. Okay? But then people like us, we wanted to have a skyline. What was the skyline of Bombay 20 years back? Has it changed? Yeah, there is an antenna there now. Otherwise, it's similar. Maybe 2 towers, which he will not agree with me. Ashish, you built it, you can argue. You built 2 towers there, 60 stories, 20 years back. SD Corporation, Shahpurji. But that is the skyline. Are you proud of that? You seem to be proud of it. I'm happy with it. Okay. Yeah, he said it's changed a lot. I mean, when we say this, a lot is very subjective, Lot means 2 buildings have come up. Wow. Out of 13 buildings, I was reading the statistics, Hong Kong has 1,164 skyscrapers. Then I said, what is a skyscraper? Is there a definition? Is there an Indian code? There is no Indian code because Indians don't believe in high rise. So they leave aside the BIS. So what is it? What is a tall building? What is a high rise and what is a skyscraper? Then I looked at definitions. A tall building, somebody told me, is something which goes to 21 meters. I may be wrong. A high rise is something which goes from 22 meters to 150 meters. And the skyscraper is 150 meter plus. So why in India we don't worry about skyscrapers? We don't have it, We don't need it. Why? Because enough land. Because enough agriculture land converted to non-agriculture, industrial land converted to agriculture, to non-agriculture, enough land. But now that's not the case. We have no land. So what do we do? So that's the problem which I had. So I called the big boys and the bad ones here to discuss. Yeah. Don't take it to your heart, sir. You're not the stepchild that way. But it will happen. Gupta Saab, he's a project management guru here, sir. Great years experience. Why go high rise? Give me 5 points where this audience will stand up and clap for you when you say, let's go high rise. 5 points.
Yeah, certainly. And thanks for giving the background of the high rise, the definition of it. So as per what you just qualify, high rise as per the Bureau of Indian Standards is anything beyond 45 meters is called as high rise. If you go to another standard, it says 50 meters. Now, the thing is, this is all getting driven from the ladder size that the fire authorities can afford to have to the firefighting capabilities, yes, but with increasing urbanization, the influx which is happening into the cities, the kind of slums that we see in the cities, we have no other way but to go vertical when it comes to large cities. Obviously, tier one and tier two, this phenomena is pretty common, going 45 meters and above. But probably tier three cities are still struggling with 10 stories at the most. They typically do about 5 stories. That is depending upon the land mass availability and the scale of construction. Because the moment you go tall, you end up spending, for every 10 stories that you add beyond 12 floors, your cost of construction keeps going up upwards of about 15% to 20%. So this cost of construction affordability is only possible when you are in a city where the land cost is very high and the construction cost can be managed within that overall component of the project cost. Also, in urban cities, because of this urbanization, there is a rough estimate that there would be roughly about, by 2050, the population, the urban population in India is going to touch about 50-odd%, 45 to 50%. And globally, this phenomena is going to touch and cross about 65 to 70%. This itself calls for vertical growth in the urban sector and overcoming the challenges, and whatever we have to overcome, this has to be done, the cost immaterial. Given these scenarios, I feel that going vertical is going to be the way forward, especially in tier 1 cities. And also a lot of transit-oriented developments which are happening. The whole purpose of creating that mass rapid transport system is that you bring tall structures near to these TOD developments so that you can afford to go vertical, at the same time bring the efficiencies and the carbon footprint to a little lower levels, because you may spend a little bit higher in terms of carbon footprint when you are building a high rise, but then with the operational efficiencies where people are using mass rapid transport to arrive at the work office day-to-day basis, these carbon footprints can be neutralized over there.
Right.
So that's 4 or 5 things.
Sir, how high are you ready to go?
So
in meters.
Like Mumbai, where it's kind of pretty scarce and a lot of slum issues, and the city has very different kind of challenges when it comes to the landscape of the entire real estate. There, I clearly see that 70 meters and above is going to be the norm. There is nothing going to be less than 70 meters. 70 meters plus is going to be the norm.
Okay, but 70 meters, I think if you look at, especially Delhi NCR, Dwarka Expressway, that side, they have already broken the norm. It is already 70 meters plus many other projects. Are we excited more than that? Are we still at that 36 meters to 70 meters, 70 meters to 75, when people are talking about 100, 180, 220, 300 meters?
Yeah.
So are we still grappling with our own inefficiencies?
It is, and like I mentioned, the entire fraternity has to grow up, has to support that kind of a construction, including the contracting fraternity, the design fraternity. If you want to do anything beyond 150 meters, you don't have contractors, you don't have consultants who can, and I'm not undermining, I mean, there are consultants and there are contractors, but then there are skill set that is required. You look around and you say that, okay, call somebody from Gulf, call somebody from Singapore, Malaysia to do these kind of developments, and they have delivered something like that over there. So skills is something that is actually undermining this growth story, which could have been achieved like in other large global cities.
Valid point, valid point. Mr. Roy, you are the birth giver to our design.
Can I just comment on
Sure,
that?
sure, please do that. No, I like the controversy that he said we don't have, then I think he may become
No, I didn't,
diplomatic.
I'm not getting into that. I know that you're looking for controversy. I'll avoid that.
Very important.
No, it's just because we had this conversation before. He says I'm going to
This is
make
part
you
of
fight on
syllabus,
that.
the controversy.
Okay. So coming to this, you said, is there a need for it? And I just want to comment on that from the experience that we are seeing. Need or not need, I'm not the one to determine. I think there are bigger boys sitting here who needs to determine that. But I can tell you that today, when we are working whether in Hyderabad, Kolkata, Delhi, Mumbai, about 4 to 5 years back, anything up to about 50 to 70 meters was a norm in these cities. Mumbai, of course, has always been tall for the reasons we all know. But in last 2 years, I have not, I think we must have got maybe about 100 projects maybe. Not even one has been less than 70 meters, not even one. Hyderabad, a city like Hyderabad, a norm today is anything starting from 140 meters going to about 220 meters. It's become a norm. Mumbai, anything starting from about 100 meters to 250 plus is becoming a norm at this point of time. I don't know what's happening. Is it part of what Virendra is saying, that the urbanization, the pace of urbanization is driving this? I can't answer that. Maybe Sandeep can answer it. But this is what we are seeing at this point of time. A 45 meter, I think it must be some economically low, something, that's what must be. EWS kind of thing, maybe 45 meter, but nothing beyond that. That's what the...
Fine, Ashish, thank you for it. Mr. Roy, is the city ready for high rises? Any city?
I kind
Mumbai,
of agree
Delhi.
with Mr. Gupta. I think it's inevitable in some way. Mumbai has been obviously forever tall. It has adopted for its own absolutely unavoidable reasons. Let's understand that. Such reasons were not that stark. Let's say in NCR, we had land to expand, to start creating these satellite towns of Gurgaon. Gurgaon goes to Manesar, Noida goes to Greater Noida, and so on and so forth. Bombay didn't have that much thing. Now, the argument here, tall versus a horizontal spread, is horizontal spread also doesn't come free. You have to build the roads, you have to build the MRTs that somebody was talking about.
Yes, absolutely.
And then you build the MRTs, but frankly speaking, the MRTs goes empty and you still have chock-a-block road full of cars. You are adding to pollution. So there is no right or wrong answer. I think it's a issue of horses for courses. And from a developer's point of view, it is completely commercially guided. Mr. Gupta did mention that there is the incremental cost of going high and going high and going high. See, it's all driven by the land cost also. We have to build it through the FAR. Now, that's not the only reason. The other issue is whether that particular location can also sustain the leasing cost or the sale price.
Absolutely.
Bombay can. Some of these suburbs could not at certain point of time, but with time, it is happening now, and therefore we also see this growth. I mean, take for example Gurgaon. 10 or 15 years back, if I'm not mistaken, to all of you, we had a ceiling of 60 meters because that was driven by the height of that ladder, right?
Yeah.
And
Fire.
funnel was sorted out later with the introduction of wireless. But so that is what it is. So I think it's inevitable that we go high. Because the other side isn't looking too bright either, that you go horizontal, the model that Delhi took or NCR took.
Great point. In fact, I have an analogy to join here. We were working on this, if you know, Maharashtra government had this township plan, 100-acre plus townships they will clear, and you create townships. So we created a lot of townships in Pune. I was involved in 2. One was Magarapata city, Ahmedabad Park town. And the problem was the townships, all the roads used to come on a 24-meter road in the morning at 9 a.m. and 5,000 vehicles clogged on that road, and then the township is, inside is beautiful, the road is clogged. So when I make a building like that, sir, and all of the cars, we love our cars, and we love big cars also.
The problem with road sizing is exactly that. It will be undersized at certain time of the day and it will be oversized in the other time of the day. Unfortunately, because of our timing situation, it's very difficult.
But the love of the cars Delhiites have, it will all be undersized, I am sure. The love of cars we have here, it will all be undersized. You know?
Delhiites has point for cars. I agree.
So how do how do we tackle a situation like that? You know, going vertical is maybe the need, but when the need is there, but the skill issues are there, but the infrastructure doesn't support that. How are you going to manage this?
Taking cue from what actually has been said already, challenges are of course there. Practically speaking, if we see, on the infrastructure front, while we develop the vertical growth, is it going to be restricted in future only to the high rises, or is it also going to affect other infrastructures? That's a question we need to answer ourselves. Space constraint is not only for housing. Space constraint is for roads. Space constraint is for, like if I have to talk of people who have, traveled on the Western Express Highway in Mumbai. The space is so crowded. During morning hours, you take about, more than 1.5 hours to travel just 10 kilometers. I was really surprised when I found that the development that happened for the metro for last 6-7 years did not take into account a vertical elevated road. Because when we say we have to, as we know that space is becoming scarce, we have to save space also for the future generation. It's not that we are going to consume everything. How realistic is it to actually grow cities horizontal? Today, at one point of time in the very beginning when I passed out from my college, I came to Mumbai and I found that, Mumbai airport was out of the city. And today, where is Mumbai airport?
In the middle of the city.
Mira Road is Mumbai. Dahisar is Mumbai. Okay. So with this growth, I think it is now what has become a vertical growth has become a necessity for me. I would no longer consider it as an option. It's a necessity because as we say, we need to save trees for the future generation. How much of agricultural land have we consumed for infrastructure development in the last so many years? If we look at Antwerp Central Railway Station, way back in 1905, they made a 4-storied railway station there. And we are still struggling to find an answer. So answer has to come out of a necessity. And the necessity will automatically bring in the cost and the, the value. Like Mumbai, if I ask a person in Delhi to buy a house for 1.5 crores or 2 crores, which just measures about 800 square feet, how will be the reaction? And how is the reaction when it is in Mumbai? They know they have no option. 800 square meter at 1.5 crore is a reality there. So how can we make that necessity a reality? That is more important for us to answer. For me, vertical construction is not an option, it's a necessity. Cost is a necessity derived out, cost is basically a concept derived out of necessity. Today, if I have to ask somebody, are you going to, work on, coming back to, of course, I'll come back to the construction part of it. If you say that we are not ready, we were not ready even 10 years back to do a 12-storied building. We did it. We were not ready to do metros underground in 1990s. We did it. Yes, we of course may need some help from outside, But that help and support is an ecosystem of the whole world today. So we should not shy away from taking help and support from that ecosystem and develop our own, capability to do those high rises or high vertical construction. The bigger challenge in vertical construction today is, for me, it's the mechanization part of it, which is very important.
Absolutely.
As you go high rise, there is a vertigophobia which reduces the quantum of labor that I actually get to work on very high, tall buildings. How do I counter that? The only way, because I face labor shortages primarily when I go above 12 or 13 floors. Many of my laborers who are ready to work below 12 floors or up to 12 floors are not ready to go beyond that. That is where the training, the whatever you call the training, the mechanization, all this has to gel into one. So that's how it is for me.
No, linked to your question, Mr. Roy, you have something to say? You have a point there?
He very rightly mentioned the construction risks, and that is absolutely real. This is where actually on the design side, I think technology is coming to help. You see the kind of risks we are taking when we are going high-rise. We are taking enormous risk in terms of fire. Facade, today, a low 6, 8, 10 stories, you wouldn't think of doing a wind tunnel test, but at that height of the super talls, we are going in to make sure, because if something goes wrong, the risk is enormous. I mean, to build it the first time is difficult enough. To go back and repair it is another challenge altogether.
True.
Take vertical transportation. We were talking of the horizontal transportation all this time, but VT is a big issue. Can we model it? Are we getting it right? So at the design stage, we are extremely, extremely careful. And this is where the previous panel or the digital twinning is coming into help. That at a fraction of cost that we would invest at the end to actually build it, we can virtually build it and almost model everything out today. The technology is there. A lot of developers are adopting it. Adoption rate is slow. Mr. Aluwale mentioned that probably this industry is a little slow because it's a very, very, I mean, literally it's a brick and mortar industry, okay? I mean, that's in literal sense. So yes, it is slow, but it's going there. It will happen.
Yeah, Ashish, on
I just want to comment on that part. In my experience, I don't see design as an issue. Design, products, materials are not an issue. India is a market which is it's seen the world. Here in this country, there are international people, international companies working here. We get products from all over the world coming here. So it's not the design, it is not the products which are challenge. The challenge is on the execution front. Bigger challenge, which we are not even talking about, is in the operation front. You create a tall building with whatever you do. In our case, a simple thing like IoT, automation, these are controversial thing in my personal opinion, because I've been to many forums, digital forums, we've spoken about big things, but at the end of the day, we can't make automation work even in a small building. These are the challenges because of the execution. There's nothing wrong with the product. It's the way we execute the things. And then finally, how we operate the thing. So those are the risks I see bigger going forward that needs to be resolved. I don't see designs would be a problem or products would be a problem.
Yeah, I actually meant that in case I'm misunderstood. The design solutions are there. And do you think the operation issue, because these vertical buildings are like cities in themselves. They have movement. You are going up and down, and they are living beings in themselves. Do you think it is more because in India we are not used as much to these things? Because I see it operating everywhere else in the world. You mentioned the operation problems. That's what I'm asking.
Okay, so they're operating everywhere. Yes, you're right. And is the operational practices that come into the picture. It is again. We have the same problems with in a low-rise building also. There's nothing which has gone in. You see the problems are similar for operation, low-rise and the high-rise. In low-rise, you are able to get away with the things. In high-rise, it has to work. There is no sorry in those cases, because from a fire safety perspective, from the way we were talking outside, we were talking about the pressures that you handle, the systems that handle, how do you cater to those? I think the stories can go on and on. So operational practices become even more important when it comes to the high-rises. The challenges are both in the low-rise, high-rise, because the reason is we have the best of the people coming out from the highest engineering colleges and architects designing things. When it comes to execution, we still have the people coming with the tires and designing it. When it comes down to execution and operation, the things change completely.
I have objection here, sir. No engineering college teaches high-rise construction, to the point you asked. That's one. But I go for roam here and there all over IITs, and I mentor almost 20 startups in construction right now as we speak, and nobody is worried about that. I heard a robot which is handling bricks yesterday, somebody was telling me. Anyway, it is costing 18 lakh rupees. Gupta sir, you are quiet, but you are the main man here. How do I manage what he said, the execution of such a project, which is very complex, in a small area, but vertically tough to reach at places which could be confined spaces, spaces where you need machinery to make you reach there, maybe PM lifts and all. I remember a company called Universal Equipment 15 years back. I'm a director there. The company, they were struggling to sell PM lift 15 years back. Today, nobody is struggling. They are selling it like a normal lift. So what are the challenges on the site while executing such a project?
See, the moment you go vertically up, apart from the earthquake factors, you have to consider the bigger issue, which is the wind issue, the wind pressure. So what I see in a vertical situation, while the construction is on, apart from, keeping design apart for a moment, which again is a very challenging phenomena. You have to decide on the geometry. You have to ensure there are no spaces getting created where it'll be hard to reach, difficult to construct, manage at a later date. So you have to keep all that in mind during the design phase as well. But I'm going to talk about what you are asking right now as to, how do we build and build it safely. The right way to do a high-rise, I would say, is actually steel buildings, going towards more and more steel buildings. That, I feel, is going to be more efficient, given the time scale that it takes, the kind of wind pressures that we are talking about, the efficiencies that developer is looking for, the geometry of the building itself. When you are designing the building, the developer would like to sell the building with a view. Whatever the tenants, the occupants, they would like to have a sea view. But then how do you give the sea view? How do you give that green view to all the occupants, to all the buyers? The only way is that you go sleek, you go columnless to as much as possible. To ensure that the core and the services are managed in a more efficient way than losing, space horizontally. You are going vertically, you are spending probably every 7th floor, you may end up losing 1 floor for services, for refuge and all that. Right. But, the efficiencies cannot be compromised when it comes to the selling features, which is, for any developer, is the look, the views that you are going to get from the building, and the construction challenges which have to be mitigated, avoiding all those nooks, corners which you just spoke about. So I feel that from constructability standpoint and structural standpoint, you have to find a very seamless balance where the constructability as well as the design features are not compromised. They go hand in hand.
Sandeep, quick question here. Are we trained enough, skilled enough, comfortable enough to make a composite building of steel and concrete, maybe the hollow core slabs, 75, 80, 90, 100 meters? Do we have the skill? Are we comfortable, or we have to go to HOK Singapore, or we have to go to Sweden, or we have to go to US?
It's fairly new, but yes, buildings are happening around. In fact, our organization is doing a few. There is, again, a cost impact of that, but does it? The whole debate is, does the time take care of that cost, and we are finishing earlier. But our experience clearly has been that it depends on the scale of the building. At a very large scale, when you have a floor plate of anything between 50,000, 60,000 plus at a floor plate level and a large building, then the time kind of works out with the additional cost, and that is where we are applying composite. The skill set with the construction is coming in. There are quite a few contractors we are bringing in, but I think, again, it's a specific application. You cannot say that that is the only way to go.
Absolutely. Ashish, most important. Virendra said services. And believe me, services, I thought 10 years back was somebody nobody thought about, दो तार लगाना है, दो नल लगाना है, उसमें कौन सा बड़ा बात है. So, अभी भी है. Now you tell me how to solve this problem in a 70-meter building, where not even, I remember 15 years back, buildings were 80% civil and 20% electromechanical MEP. Today the buildings are as much as 50% MEP. how do we solve this mindset? I think it's a mindset issue, you know. Because ultimately, we pay the consultant by square feet and hardly 50 paisa, 90 paisa, 5 rupees. And because we say 1 square mm, you use 1.5 instead of 1, no problem. But they forget that on the 1 square mm, I have 5 extension cords and 20 mobile phones plugged to that. How do I solve this mindset issue, especially with our builder fraternity?
It's a great question, Rajiv. So the challenges of electromechanical, they multiply when we go to the tall buildings.
Right.
The reason is that you are starting from the engineering, you are exposed to technologies which were being used so far for the low rise, and suddenly you have got a tall building which has got its own challenges. To a point, the execution technologies or the habits which are there, they are, in case of tall buildings, they become difficult. Let me give you a few examples of it. The first is, in residential buildings, you stack the air conditioners one above another, the outdoor units, as we say, for our split units and VRFs. Imagine you got 100 meter, 150 meter tall buildings, and all the outdoor units are being stacked one above another. There is something called a stack effect which takes place, because when all of these air conditioners, one above another, are letting out the hot air, the one on the top is going to experience a higher temperature which is going into as a suction to that outdoor unit, and the capacity drops immediately. Things like pressures. You are dealing with high pressure fittings, you're dealing with high pressure applications. There are, in water supply, the pressure reducing valves are being done. They come with their own maintenance issues, they come with their own operation issues. So all of this requires a mindset change which comes into this. We do see challenges when we go to the first-time developers who are doing this. They do definitely, it takes a time for them to understand. But what has been the good part is, since some of these buildings have been around, there have been learnings which has happened. We have seen most of them eager to know that what has gone wrong in those buildings, what has been there. So they are eager to learn. They're ready to accept. Are they ready to pay? I think that's another story that we can talk about it. But yes, as I said, that the solutions have to be thought of, and they are very much available out there.
No, linked to MEP, we have now building automation system, building management systems. We have STPs. We would have a fiber optic coming in the buildings. You know, I remember did a project 10 years back where my project sold on FTTH.
Let me tell you very interesting. Now, where I was going. Now, you have to now, at this point, what is happening is we are marrying the statutory provisions of low rise with a high rise. Let me give an example.
Absolutely.
A sewage treatment plant or a DG set, generators. A generator flue has to be let out 30 meters minimum. Yes. You know, a certain capacity, 30 meters minimum, or 5 meters above from the tallest part of the building. Yeah. You're doing a 250 meter tall tower. What do you want? A generator flue stack to go 250 plus 5 meters, 255 meters?
No, in Bangalore, I was supposed to do 2 shafts for garbage.
Yeah, I was just coming to that. The next is our sustainability says, and our norms are, so much percentage of power has to be generated from solar panels. Solar power, yeah. On a tall building, what is the roof area you got? Try presenting it to the authorities. Try talking about, yeah, correct. So the challenges are there in this area also.
Very much.
And again, as I said, this can go on. The examples can go on and on. So those are the issues that
in fact, I faced this when in Maharashtra, a building, they said 70 liters per bathroom should be solar heated. So there is no roof there. You know? Where do you get that 70 liters roof heating system from? So the biggest problem we feel, maybe you agree, disagree, is the statutory rules, laws, are they in tandem with what we want to do, or they are totally
so you have,
away from
high efficiency facade systems. You have facade systems where you can tap solar energy through the facade as well. So there are solutions, but then those are very expensive, and not many people are able to afford it. So it's not that we just have to look at the rooftop, but we can actually use the building facade for tapping these energies. And one of the building that comes to my mind right now has a wind turbine installed, because it's sitting in a situation where between the two towers, they have installed two wind generation fans.
Turbines.
Yeah,
fine.
turbines. So those are like generating, each one of them is generating about I think 1 megawatt or some odd number. I don't remember exactly. That kind of energy is getting generated within the building. It's all about how you are harnessing the wind as well as solar energy. And in India, we have a long way to go, obviously, but I think globally, if we tap all those technology solutions which are there, available, time-tested, there is, certainly a lot of potential of going vertical, and especially the cities like tier 1 cities like Mumbai and Delhi, it is a matter of time that you have to adopt it. There is no other way.
So that
Can
point
I
you.
just one point to add to this first?
Sure.
See, as we were discussing the cost part of it, see, one of the primary, of course, the block, is the cost. Now, as we say, what is the cost? India is still a developing country, and we need a lot of money to, support the infrastructure or housing requirements of such a large population. Movement towards, the tier 1, tier 2 cities are not showing signs of stopping because our employment generation centers have not moved. So one of the thing when we talk about cost is also that how we parallelly move the economic centers, activity centers from the tier 1 and tier 2 cities to the other cities where the flow here actually reduces and lays less stress on the capital. Now with the money that we have for spending on the this capital projects, you will find that a lot of it will go into the infrastructure, and we have too many things to cater to from a fixed amount. So actually the distribution of money becomes scarce. Is it really the money that is scarce, or it is the distribution of money that is scarce? It is the distribution of money that is scarce. So that is where we need to tackle this scenario from an outside perspective of shifting the economic activity to other centers.
Right.
So with that, if the quantum of infrastructure development can be brought down to even by a 10%, this 10% money actually goes into the development or the cost addition to the projects where cost is a constraint today.
Yeah. You spoke about, the statutory requirements, and from statutory standpoint again, Ashish mentioned there is a vertical movement sort of in Hyderabad because a lot of buildings are nothing less than 100 meters is getting built. Part of the reason of that is actually in Hyderabad you can buy FAR. You are allowed to, on a 7-acre land, you can do a 4 million square feet. Now, I don't know who gave that idea to the government, but they are selling FAR. The road we spoke about, the road in front of that building is hardly 45 meters. Nobody is thinking about creating the infrastructure to support that vertical growth that you have thrown open to the public, to the developers, to everyone. And you are creating a kind of a bottleneck for your future city. So it has to be looked upon, on the statutory part as well.
Right.
We really need to address the infrastructure and the vertical growth together. It can't be in isolation.
In fact, in Maharashtra and Karnataka, if you know, there was, we buy TDR, we call it, TDR, which is FAR, up to 60%, 1.6 times, and then with the same 24-meter road in front of your project, and you can't go out. So on a scale of 1:10, are we ready? 1 means not ready at all, forget about it. 10, tomorrow we can build a 150-meter building. Mr. Roy? 8. So 150 meters, not 70 meters.
No, we are ready. I don't see any challenge. I think 10 out of 10 we are ready. It's just that the laws, the technology, the focus on execution, the focus on operation needs to be
Change to it.
Yeah, it has to be. Technology is there.
Technology is there. Our will is there. Everything. Skill is there. Mr. Dey, what about you?
Yeah, same here. I also think we are ready. It's only about marrying the different components together and bringing it to a mutual support system that is the necessity of the day.
Perfect. Sir,
Yeah, with all the projections in place, where urbanization is happening at a growth rate of 18% year on year, I don't see any other way but to go vertical. So absolutely no doubts over there. But we really have to gear up in terms of the infrastructure. Yes, metro is happening in all the tier 1 cities,
yeah.
which is good news. We are about 20 years behind schedule, but still, I mean, if this kind of infrastructure gets constructed, vertical growth is possible and is sustainable.
Great. Very
Just want to
positive.
add, Arun,
Yeah,
one more
Ashish.
thing very interesting is, India is a very unique country where we find a solution, a cheap solution to everything.
Absolutely.
He spoke about the steel. Out of 10 projects I'm doing, not even one is going for steel when we're talking about the stall. Everybody is going RCC only. We are going tall. We are going the cheaper way because the steel is expensive. Similarly, when it comes down to the execution also. So we are ready. We are ready with the jugaad also. We are ready with everything. We will do it. It will be done.
Great. Great. That's a great news. Great feeling. Yes, please.
All right. Hi. My name is Prasoon Srivastava, and I think I know Mr. Ashish from somewhere. I'm an architect, and if I wear my architect's hat and with our international experience at the moment, we are designing multiple projects which are over 200 meter high. One thing that really surprised me that, one of the architects is not on the panel today because we are the culprits who are really creating all the trouble for you guys.
He's there. Mr. Roy is there.
Yeah.
We'll not call him a culprit though, but yeah, he's there.
Yeah, so what happens really is when we design the buildings, these tall buildings, one of the biggest element while designing our focus is on efficiency because all our clients are looking for is number of units, service areas, common areas versus net areas, efficiency, and then we become a nightmare for people like Ashish because we are always squeezing the service areas over there.
Right.
So I think that's how the designs are done, and that's why the challenges we have all the time with services. The other aspect that I think is very critical for tall buildings is the structural design. If we talk about an efficient design, which is more matchbox kind of a structure, everything works out pretty well. But the moment I start putting a dancing column, a dancing balcony, or something, twisting floor plates, it becomes a nightmare for the structure as well. But when it comes to negotiation with the consultants and our colleagues, the only places where we can negotiate is services. We don't negotiate at fire life safety, we don't negotiate at vertical transportation, we do not negotiate with structural design at all. And I think that is one of the biggest challenges that we face. I think we should also touch upon a point when we go vertical, garbage disposal becomes a very big challenge.
Absolutely.
And maintaining, or managing garbage disposal becomes a very big nightmare. In the Indian context, I'd like to make a point. I think in the Indian context, we should have more of a mixed use development because the moment we start going taller, there should be more incentives that people should live, play and work in the same locality.
Absolutely.
If they're doing that, then we'll be able to kind of reduce some, pressure on the infrastructure and that may help us. So these are some of the points that I thought I would like to share.
Arun, I'll just add to what Prasoon said. I think thank you for bringing MEP in front. The stepchild is becoming a favorite now. So on the other part, I think one thing that we missed out, when you said, are we ready? Yes, we are ready, but are all the cities ready? Possibly no. If you're developing something in Mumbai, when we do this tall building in Mumbai and when we go for the MOEF clearance, the environment clearance, they ask, how are you going to deprive your neighbors of the sunlight because of the shadow you're casting? What about the glare that you're going to cause to the others? Quantify that. But is Hyderabad asking me this? Is Delhi asking me this? Possibly is no right now. So the learnings, they exist in those cities which have seen the tall buildings, but I don't think from a sustainability perspective, from experience perspective, that experience is being shared right now.
Absolutely.
It's not happening. So.
One last question. Anybody has one last question?
I'm Abhay Gupta. I'm a structural consultant. And as Prasoon very well said, structure is one of the major concerns. Probably there may be more structural engineers here. But we are connected to the design of high-rise buildings. And Rajiv, probably you also, we have interacted. I'll address 2-3 points. First, definition of the tall building. In Indian courts, it is well defined now. 50 meters is the internationally accepted definition of a high rise. Anything beyond 50 meters. Indian court says 50 to 250 meters is tall, 250 beyond is
Skyscraper.
CTBUH defines 50, 300, 600. Tall, super tall, mega tall. We all know. So that is now understood. As far as education in Indian institutions or IITs is concerned, tall buildings are being taught in detail, but not from the perspective of Ashish.
Yeah.
Services, they are otherwise also not being taught. Correct. Services. What high rise? For low rise as well. Structural engineering, maybe in architecture, tall must be dealt. But structural engineering is well
Yeah,
understood.
it is there, of course.
Virendra has put in very well point. The construction scenario has to be changed. RCC cannot be a solution for super tall kind of things. For its obvious reasons of handling on site, unless and until we switch over to off-site construction, which slowly in India, I have Mr. Tripathi here. Yeah, it's just entered. So there is a big development on the precast construction side and on the prefab in the steel, and joined together is the composite construction which is taking place in the country and worldwide. So that's a solution. But we need, as on the project management and on the services side both, from the DLF and KEC sitting there, an integrated approach towards the construction of a tall building. We do everything good, but we make block walls. We make brick walls. We are making my own also concrete, but that's not quite good, nicely adopted. We need to go for the faster, rapid construction or faster in terms of the wall technology, walling technology. Prefab walls should be integrated with the structural system. That is the time when we'll really shift to the high rise. We need to reduce the weight, dead weight of the structure. The only live load in a residential high rise is 200 kg or 2 kilonewton per meter square, but the dead weight of the same ranges from 8 to 12 kilonewtons per meter square. So to resist 2 kilonewton, we are spending on another 8 or 10 extra. So that is where the work has to be done.
So even we are using toilet pods now, we are using staircase precast, we are using many things which
even those precasts are concrete and all that. So again they are adding to the dead weight. Walls are the major culprit and the floor slab. So
I think you've said it well, Abhijit,
Yeah.
and especially taking Prasoon's point also. As you said, the integrated design, I think that is missing. We come with the mentality of short buildings. We want to
Actually, all
execute
the-
with the price of short buildings, but we
Tall
want to do
buildings.
tall
as
buildings.
you very rightly said, all the norms, statutory regulations were made for low rise or 15 meter or 50 meter. We are using them on high rise without really thinking on their implications on
Absolutely.
that high rise systems and services.
Here I would like to add a
Very
point. Actually, there is a mindset issue with the customers, these buyers also. I think somewhere 15 years back, there was a effort by Simplex Concrete Piles India Limited to bring in prefab construction to this housing industry.
Shirke.
The-
That was Shirke.
No, it was Simplex, who
Simplex,
first
Shirke is
did
now
the
doing
steam cured panel system for the construction. Of course, it was not a very high rise construction, I would not say that. But the problem with the mentality was customers were not going to him. The reason being, they thought that RCC structures would be more hot inside. The moisture arrangements, moisture comfort levels, because Calcutta is a high humidity area, the humidity issue will become a problem. So that mindset also needs to change with the customer.
एक तो अबे जी सबसे
See,
बड़ी
my-
जो प्रॉब्लम है,
my-
I
yeah,
just
I
want to
think
say
we'll have
that
to-
here one thing, सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम है जो आपके
Ashish,
जो
last-
केजी
last 30 seconds.
जस्ट ये जो केजी सरिया वाला है ना, जो आप टॉल बिल्डिंग में लगाना चाहते हो, हैदराबाद में काम करो 4.5 केजी सरिया लगेगा जी. अरे look at the design, look at the flexibility, look at the future, look at the services. 4.5 केजी लगेगा, 150 मीटर करो, 200 मीटर करो, that's it. It'll stop there.
Actually, this mindset is one
Sir,
of the
I
biggest
think,
things.
sir, we can take this offline. We have to stop here.
Ek point, sir.
for
When you
lunch.
talk of the tall building, the people living in the upper floors, they experience a vibration. They experience a motion every time.
Sway.
A 150 meter tall building or a 250 meter tall
6-inch
building
sway, yeah.
will have a sway of half a meter or more than that every time in the ambient vibrations as well. So people need to be trained for that.
Right.
And that is where the adoption will come. And all the services need that continuity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am. All yours.
Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we're extremely sorry we had to cut short such an interesting discussion, and we now end the proceedings of this session. Let's put our hands together for the wonderful, eminent panelists we have in this session, as I request our moderator to do the honors of presenting a token of appreciation and gratitude on behalf of the organizers to all our eminent panelists. I would request Mr. Rajiv Nehru to do the honors of presenting a memento, a gift to Mr. Ashish Rakheja, to Mr. Sandeep Roy, to Mr. Siddharth Day, to Mr. Day, and to Mr. Virendra Gupta. And I would request Mr. Shali to kindly do the honors of presenting a token of gratitude to our moderator, Mr. Rajiv Nehru. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Mr. Shali, for doing the honors. May I request for a group photograph, sir?